Alright guys, talk about HKIT. Crazy day. I actually really just made two main trades. Um, I guess first thing I should talk about is this day is a lot like the day after TPST. So TPST did crazy black swan thing, and then next day we had a bunch of crazy parabolics, mostly in the pre-market. Again, really easy to parabolic in the pre-market. Uh, I was not awake until about here on the chart for HKIT, but I was glad to see that it was still up in the top of its range. It's really nice. So I can't really comment on a lot that was happening over here, but I will tell you when the market gets crazy, you'll start to see like, sell my Discord, you'll see 20, 40% pullbacks and then like 100% squeeze. This is very normal in this type of market. And yeah, and somebody asked me, do I change the way I go about trading in this type of market? And honestly, the answer is no. It's still the same patterns. I have a lot of short friends who will just they'll short every single play in the pre-market, and they'll just accept that maybe one of them they'll get squeezed like 50 to 100%, and then the rest have these big fades. And to them, it's just a numbers game. But I still just like my liquidity patterns. So I came online and I see this lower high paint, right? We got a lower high, lower high, lower high, right? So lower high paint, right below high day, potentially bullish, right? So, um, I didn't want to short this mini push right here because I was afraid these lower highs are going to get squeezed. I'm like, you know what? Let me just be patient on these lower highs. We get a walk down. You could see it get walked down right here, right? So a bunch of controlled selling. Maybe I can make this bigger for you guys. A bunch of controlled selling right there. And then we get the rotation, and then we get the same. Again, I talked about this on Holo yesterday, that a lot of times on these really strong ones that are trading really big volume and have multiple levels of consolidation, the short signal often shows up. It could be half an hour after high day. So the high day's here, right? Half an hour, sometimes 45 minutes, sometimes an hour, hour and a half. I'd probably say 40 to 80 minutes, somewhere around there, is kind of like the sweet spot of like when they can like build up enough liquidity in the stock to paint a chart and set the higher lows and lower highs or whatever they're going to do, and then generate that liquidity for the push, right? And we got a classic bookmap signal that when we got this really aggressive move right here, this is a very do or die moment. I mean, there's clean chart paint, right? So I'm thinking, well, it could just squeeze straight up. I don't want to be too early, but at the same time, if we start getting a bullish, a bearish bookmap signal, which often means lack of bid follow up, you know, especially on these backside, these kind of like long trappy consolidations, you know, we see the same trick where I'll just, it sets up a range over, in this case, it's about what, an hour. Um, and then it does the trick where it has like multiple layers of ask. Those ask are holding the stock down. So the ask on the book are holding these lows down. They initiate it through the ask, right, with no bid follow up, and there's some type of stall, usually below, in this case, below high day. So, and we could see that. We could see here's the high day, here's the chart paint. You could see the ask. So there's ask holding this down, ask holding this down, and then when they finally initiate the stock, you could see that they're taking out all of these offers, and especially once it got above 7.5, I'm like, if this gets above 7.5 and starts struggling or it comes back below 7.5, which it did right here, it's like I'm just going to go in. And in the pre-market, I do have hotkeys that will have limit orders, say, like 5 cents, 7 cents below. It depends on the, yeah, I have different ones depending on the price point. But for a $7 stock, I'm going to want, um, a limit order that's through the bid, that is that is executing. Uh, Wait a minute. Sorry, this is Something not working over there. Sorry, but it's executing below the bid because you're more likely to get filled, right? So once I saw this week, saw the ask get filled, no bid follow up, saw the weakness in the stall right here, right? And this was a stalling for about 10 seconds here. I was like, all right, like I'm just gonna, I saw 7.4s get chipped away, and I was already starting to short. Um, and what's very interesting is they had this reclaim, right? Right, they had this aggressive reclaim, and we saw with Holo. If we go to Holo yesterday, speaking of the video I just made yesterday, a lot of times these aggressive reclaims are strong, right? The long trap turns into a short trap, right? Especially because here this wick, is swiping the bottom of the range here, and they rig it back up and do the real long, right? And Holo yesterday, on my short here, it's the same pattern, literally same pattern with the same bookmap signal. Um, you could see the soak, you could see the rotation, and you could see the push, right? So here's, my pattern getting invalidated, right? Um, and seemingly on HKIT, the same thing seems to be happening, right? But this just shows, probably the biggest lesson right here is that anything could happen, right? You don't know if this what looks like manipulated Soki reclaim is going to squeeze high day. You have no idea. So you just, sometimes it will do this, and you will literally catch the top of a 50% plus fade, um, which, by the way, I did hold all the way for this lower day break because I remember SECO, SECO, and the OPGN or whatever the other ticker was. Um, I was using those tickers as a model, and a lot of those tickers ended up fading in the afternoon. So, um, we were getting a lot of like deeper unwinds into later in the day. So I actually really, I took some off at the 1 minute 200, but I really wanted to practice just holding a lot of my position for a lot longer, and I made a lot on it. Um, but yeah, I mean, this is classic. Here's your lower high chart paint, right? Big initiation, and then right through the book, right? So, on these painted consolidations that have ask holding it down, when it's eating through those ask and looking really bullish, I mean, this is exactly what you want to see. And then you could see this super violent reclaim had no bids supporting it. And ultimately I was looking, I told my Discord, it's like, I'm just looking at 7.5. As 7.5 gets pushed, then this is probably just going to squeeze high day because of the lower high chart paint. But as long as it's not up there, I'm looking at the bids and I'm not really seeing a lot of bid follow up. And then you just hope it goes down. I mean, there's nothing you could do. You're in a trade, so there's nothing left to do. Especially with something with this much range, you know what I mean? There's so much potential to the downside. You pretty much have to take it when you get a signal like this and hold for deeper. So. Um, but besides that, I mean, I wasn't really looking to add or trade. Um, it pretty much just gave a little pop at market open and dumped straight down. I didn't really see anywhere to add here, and then yeah, I just haven't. It's been pretty much weak the entire day. So just covered in the lower day, and I guess I'll do since this video is actually pretty short, I'll show you my other trade was a market open long on um, SYRA, right? So here's the market open long, which is funny because this is a bigger percent move than the short I just showed you. It goes to show you how ridiculous longs are. So also in the Discord, I said, hey, the best longs are going to be on bottomed out names in the pre-market, right? It's very counterintuitive that when the market gets really crazy like this, the tickers that are gapped up the most are the worst longs, right? And the tickers that are bottomed out the most are the best, right? Um, And SYRA was interesting. It's this tiny float stock that released this PR that they got some like $75 billion contract, but it's pretty much in when you have a float under 3 million, you could any PR could be seen with a huge it's a red flag. It's a grain of salt. You know what I mean? Like like immediately discount whatever news you hear. That being said, this is still quite strong. I mean, this is rotating. This rotated all the way into the eights in the afternoon. Um, I didn't long it in the afternoon, even though I wish I longed the. I really wish I longed the pre-market, the midday flag over here. Oh, so you can't see that. This midday flag rotating. You can see the flag. This is like a real flag. But anyway, I had a long on VS. This was after TPST. So after TPST, I said one of a very bullish pre-market structure is when you get these bottomed out names on stocks that just go straight up, straight down. So there's no significant areas of consolidation up here. Um, So there's simply less resistance up ahead. You get these big, crazy 700% move followed by a 70% dump. Um, really not a whole lot of shares being traded at any one level. It's just the market's crazy. It's a low float stock. It just goes up and down really fast. These bottomed out. So I'll show you VS. This was a chart I also shared in the Discord, and VS was a long I took. Um, God, what day was TPS2? It was the 12th. Same thing. So this was a long that I made over 100% on. It's the same thing. Quick pop, quick dump, no significant areas of consolidation, and it opens right at its lows. It with trading a ton of volume. This VS reverse split, but this volume was millions of shares all the way at the bottom here. And if we go back to SYRA today, we had a really good, 600K, 600K. So this is good volume. This is really good volume. You know, uh, it shows accumulation at market open on a very bottomed out name. So the market open long, if you're going to be long in these like weak market open longs, the most important factor is the volume, right? The volume has to be there. You have to have some reason to believe someone's accumulating and is going to push the stock, right? And then a lot of times you're trying to be very careful with how you make the book map reads. So if we go to we go to SYRA at market open, we'll see. Now, big thing about longing, especially in low floats, is if you're not in where the bids are, a lot of these, especially these initial pushes, like here, and these, in this type of market, these pushes are like 20, 30% pushes. Like they're actually kind of nuts. Um, but a lot of times there's a lack of bid follow up, so you don't want to chase. Like I was just casually watching this, and I didn't long into this bid down here just because I thought um, it was a little early. Oh, I also went to the bathroom and then I came back and I actually missed the read here. I didn't realize when I went to the bathroom that it was market open. So I came back at like 9:30. I think it was before this knife, so it was already up here. And I'm like, man, the bids don't very look that great. I mean, there's bids down here, which is where it went down to, but there were no bids on these pushes. So I was like, all right, let me wait for the knife. Hopefully it comes back to these bids, and then I can make, and then you get like, a double bounce or triple bounce, well, however you want to look at this, pretty much like a triple bounce off these bids. I saw this guy get absorbed, really nice. And you get another crazy like spready push, and then it starts to consolidate, and this is where I made my read. I was like, the volume's great. Had a double bounce off of support. There's bids here. I see some smaller follow-up bids coming into the stock. They're not getting sold into. I saw the 340s hold, and yeah, I just went in there, and the volume just came in. We got follow-up bids, follow up, follow up, follow up, follow up, and it up halted. Um, Now, a key thing you kind of want to know is that on these stocks that already went parabolic, if you're trying these like almost like these bottomed out mean reversion longs, that um, a lot of times they can make very aggressive moves, but they can make aggressive moves with a lack of bids. Now there are bids down here, but that doesn't mean there's going to be bids up here. And because of the volatility, you can have a long uh, where you're up 50%, and then 5 seconds later you're up 20%. It just knives. Like, it knives half your gains in 2 seconds, right? So you do want to be. That's why I was taking profit into these pushes above VWAP at like 5 and 570, was just because I was afraid that once the initial squeeze kind of happened, you can actually kind of see um, here, you can kind of see the bids start to dry up. And I mean, there's so much volatility that sometimes it doesn't matter and it keeps going up. But, um, you could see how little bids are on the book, which is what leads to like down halts like this. And I was trying to be very proactive, especially, um, on the initial push with the lack of bids. I'm like, you just gotta, I was long 3.4 something, and then this was already getting to fives. I'm like, dude, I gotta, like, sometimes you just gotta take, when the bids start getting, start thinning up, you gotta sell in the strength on low floats. You sell in the strength when the bids aren't there. If the bids are there and it's the right type of structure, for example, I'm kind of mad I miss. This is this is a we haven't had one of these in almost like a month, but this is your classic longing at the top. Look at the bid support on SYRA. You could have longed here, here. Look at all the bids, empty book, tons of bids. This is a perfect pre-market long at the top type of move. This type of setup really only happens in really, really, really strong markets. We were seeing it a lot when VVOS and Nexi and all those plays were pushing in December, but what do you call it? All January, when it got weaker, you don't see this. You only really see this when it's really strong. Um, but I mean, look at that. You could have longed into the low fives and rode this all the way into the nines. Like, look at the bid follow up, just constant, so good. Um, so you could have, this was up how like 300%. You could have longed this up 300% and made another 8 60 70% on the trade, which is insane. So I was kind of mad for missing that. A person in my Discord did call this out pretty early, but I was very slow in. I pulled up the chart, but I didn't pull up the book map. And when I did, it was already like up here, and I'm like, oh man, dude, look at the bids on this thing. Um, but I didn't really have a read. I didn't have shares or the read on this, which is why I wasn't short. I was like, oh, this is a good market open long candidate, especially once I saw the volume come in those first 3 minutes, and I saw this knife in the bid support. So, anyways, those were really the two trades. I didn't really trade anything else. I guess the main thing I'm mad about is bets. Oh man, bets just did a. Oh man, wait, what? Wait, what? I just opened this. Oh, no way. Oh, well, I missed this. No way. The lower high chart paint, super thin squeeze. Oh, this is a great short. Actually, I don't know if I would have taken this. Let's see what the book would like. Oh man, look at the no bids, the push up the four, the offers up top. I don't know. God, during this video, this just happened. I was I didn't have any alerts or anything. But what I was gonna say was the pre-market was really nice on this move. This hyper aggressive move towards high day, and look at that. No bid follow up. They filled multiple asks. New asks come in, and this went from 3.7s at market open down to the 2.6s. So this was actually a huge miss. I was a little sad about not hitting it. So, anyways, that's the video. those were my two main trades. Didn't actually make any other trades. They were both huge winners, and I was pretty happy. So I'm just not one of these people that's just hitting. There's a lot of shorts out there who just hit everything on it, and these days they make a lot. But I just stick to my setups, stick to my reads, and um, I just find that works for me. So information up below about the Discord, and you guys have a good one. See ya.